The Seattle Mariners just completed a sweep over the New York Mets in Seattle with Sunday night baseball going on. Joe and I are going to talk about this series versus the Mets and honestly how good this team looked because they gave up one run over 3 games. It was a hell of a series for the Mariners. We're then going to talk about Julio Rodriguez coming back off the injured list. And was it maybe too early for Julio to come back, as well as some other injury notes to talk about here? We're going to finish it all up by talking about the series after the off day against the Detroit Tigers in Detroit coming up for the rest of this week. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 112 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, available on all your favorite audio platforms. Be sure to give us a 5-star review and just listen to the show there if you're not able to watch it on video. This is the Mariners World episode of the podcast. Joe, how we feeling about that?
I'm feeling great. I'm living in Mariners world right now, baby.
Feels right.
Feels good. The Sunday night baseball vibes, I think the entire time we knew like, okay, like it's going to hopefully just be a good game. And whether or not it was a close game in the Mariners' favor, a close game in the Mets' favor, if it was close, it was going to be fine. There's, a couple outcomes where it's like, okay, this is not the situation we wanted to find ourselves in on Sunday night baseball. But the moment that they announced they were going to be playing in the City Connects, I felt some sort of shift in the universe. The baseball gods were like, okay, let them cook on Sunday night. And some people that were confused by it, why? Just because it's not Friday night, they've lost once in the City Connects all year. Keep riding that same high, baby. They've done well every single time that they've played in them pretty much. Being able to showcase that on Sunday night as well. I mean, what better way to show off Seattle baseball than in the City Connects on Sunday night baseball for the first time in 20 years? The thing that is probably the most unexpected out of this outcome, Colton, was dropping 12 on the Mets' head in this one. Like, I'm sure Mariners money line, I actually don't know how this works, but Mariners money line, if it cashed or not, like, I have no idea. But you could find out more with BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being a sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. The end of the MLB season is right around the corner, so teams are definitely ramping up for the playoff push. And with that, also, the NFL season is approaching soon. Preseason has already started. New Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald potentially leading the Seahawks to a great season. And you can find all the best online betting trends with BetOnline. They've got every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Head to the website to get in on the action. Use promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. The first game that they played in this series was also in the City Connects, Colton. A shutout. A brilliant start from Bryce Miller in this one. Goes 6 innings, 3 hits. No earned, obviously, because it was a shutout. 1 walk, 6 Ks. No real, I'd say, outcry from Mariners internet people about Bryce Miller getting pulled before the 7th. I didn't see a lot of it. If it was out there, somehow I dodged it. Thank goodness. But he pitched a great game. Colin Snyder came in after that, and then Voth ran into a little bit of trouble, gave up 2 hits, but struck out 2 batters, so like gets it out of it. And then Trent Thornton seals the deal. They did only get to Quintana a little bit in this one at the beginning of the game, right? It was a quick little Ryan Bliss 2-run bomb in the bottom of the second, and then it was smooth sailing for Quintana the rest of the way, all the way up until 6 2/3, baby. That's all he could get. They kick him out of there during the 7th because they dropped 4 in the bottom of the 7th inning. Colton, the Mariners offense, it wasn't perfect in this game, but it definitely got the job done, especially with the pitching side of things holding up their end of the bargain in this game.
From this series, it's pretty easy to see why the Mariners offense doesn't have to be the best in baseball the rest of this season. As long as they can do some damage. Like, I am willing to bet on BetOnline, I'm willing to bet that if the Mariners put up like 3 to 4 runs, they are going to win the game more often than not. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be clunkers for every pitcher. It's just the way baseball works. But yeah, for the Mariners in this game, Leo Rivas came up with a big hit that scored 2 along with Cal Raleigh. I think he had a bases loaded single that scored 2 as well. The Mariners were able to pull this game out 6-0. I think that overall it was just a good vibes game. I mean, the Mets never really felt like they had anything going for them. The Mariners were able to keep a lot of the big guys in check, Alonso and Francisco Lindor, JD Martinez, etc. And that was kind of the story throughout most of this series. I think Lindor had a relatively decent series, but doesn't matter because in the end, again, the Mariners held the Mets to 1 run over this entire series. And in game 2, Joe, it was more of the same with a shutout being pitched by one Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 Ks, brings that ERA back down below 3 to a 2.91, continuing to just cement his status as a Mariners ace, lining up for a top 5, pretty much, I don't want to say guaranteed because he's probably got 7-ish starts left for the rest of the year, but if he continues this pace, a top 5 Cy Young finish is in the cards. You mentioned Lindor having an okay series. This game he went 2 for 4. I think he was hitless in the first game. 2 for 4 in this one, but none of those come back to bite you. I mean, the Mets only scrounged together 4 hits this game, whereas the Mariners put together 6. The timely hitting in this one is where I think things get a little bit more important. Mariners struck out 13 times in this game. It's not great, but when you pair that with 7 walks and timely hitting, specifically in the first inning, Rosarena drives in Victor Robles after he advances to third. Justin Turner hits a double, and then Mitch Haniger drives in a run. Like, there are very key at bats where if it goes the wrong way, those strikeouts could loom a little bit larger. But the Mariners do scratch off 3 in that first inning, go quiet for a couple innings, and then Mitch Haniger drives in another one later on, I believe, in the bottom of the 7th there. But no, it was Justin Turner. I think it was Justin Turner in the 7th as well. I can't remember.
That was when he almost hit a home run, I think, yeah.
Either way.
He hit it off the wall.
You score
Doesn't
4,
matter.
and the Mets score 0. You get Sean Manaea out after 3 innings. It's a blessing. Then you get to their bullpen, which is then going to tax them for Sunday night. And ultimately, that doesn't really affect you too much, given how Sunday Night Baseball ended up going. But anything else you want to touch on for Game 2 here?
Yeah, I mean, game 2, again, Logan was brilliant, gave up those 3 hits. Jimmy Garcia continues to be a big cog in this bullpen. And Andres Munoz came out for his 11th appearance in a row and didn't give up a hit, setting a new Mariners franchise record. He has just been lights out, man. I think that Andres Munoz he has a pretty dang good chance of winning reliever of the year for the American League. I think there's a good chance that we see. Last year, we didn't really see much in terms of accolades for the Mariners at the end of the season. This year, I think there's going to be quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Andres Munoz is at the forefront of that because when you talk about the guys who have been the best on this baseball team, it's Logan Gilbert and Andres Munoz. Again, the Mariners scored 3 runs early in this game. You felt pretty good about that with Logan on the mound and how well he was pitching. And going into game 3, Luis Castillo's been really good recently. I Bleav he's gone 6 innings in his last 9 starts or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of showed more of that again in today's game. However, he did run into a little bit of trouble, but also, the strikeout numbers were there for Luis.
Yeah, there was a bit of traffic here and there, but he does dance around it quite well. I think that's pretty normal for Castillo. He goes 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned. It was a Jeff McNeil home run. Does walk 2, but he strikes out 9. Just quality. It's just straight up quality at the end of the day. And did you need him to be that good in this game? It's nice when it happens, but no, you didn't need it because the Mariners, like we said, they scored 12. The big thing for me in this game was Robles being mic'd up. It was just such an exciting, just fun vibe the entire time he was mic'd up. He's going out in the field. Ravitch and the crew are talking to him, asking him about his pet monkeys that Ben Ranieri got on the broadcast, or, his question got put on the broadcast and asked, and it just kept getting interrupted by him making plays or him basically just shouting over the broadcasters mid-play when he's celebrating Polanco making a diving play. And then when the Mariners are up to bat, celebrating Polanco hitting a home run. It was just such good vibes the entire game. And if the Mariners had won this game 2-1, say the 1 run holds up for the majority of it, McNeil hits a home run, they get 1 back later, I would have been so satisfied just based around how good the vibes were. But when you're scoring 3 in the 5th on a Cal Raleigh bomb, and then you drop 6 in the very following inning, there's not much else that you can ask for offensively. Cal Raleigh had 2 homers in this game. Dom had a double. Great game. Just overall, top to bottom. I mean, Polanco had a great game, 3 for 5. Rivas got involved. I think the only guy that didn't get a hit was Luke Raley, but he was on base twice, 2 walks.
and Julio.
Well, we're gonna let that slide
Right.
until the baton got passed over. But since you broke the ice there, I will say Troy Taylor made his major league debut, got 2 strikeouts. Stuff looked crazy good. If that's something that they can get out of him consistently, the bullpen just got even deeper. But Colton, yeah, Julio was brought back in this game, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, so people were asking us in the past few streams that Joe and I've done, oh, any news on Julio? When's Julio coming back? We were saying probably not for another week or so, give or take, just based on all the reports we've seen about how he kind of isn't really able to turn all that well on his ankle. It's still a little ginger. I think that there is definitely a position that you can take, a stance you can have on this, that he was brought back too early. And 0 for 5 in his first game. He didn't go on any rehab assignment or anything, so whatever. Like, I honestly, I'm not too upset with Julio struggling in his first game back because, I mean, what do you expect out of a guy who's been on the IL for, the last 3 weeks and has had a pretty bad ankle sprain? Like, so I wasn't too bummed about that. I think the weirdest part was just them bringing him back in the first place. Like, yeah, Sunday night baseball, cool. Like, that's great and all. First time in 20 years that it's been in Seattle. And I don't know. It just felt weird. I was surprised to wake up this morning and see that Buster Olney had tweeted it out, that he was going to get activated. We did see Brian Bliss get sent back down because of this activation, which I thought was interesting. Instead of Leo Rivas, they went with Ryan Bliss. Maybe they just like the idea of a switch hitter and Rivas who can bat from both sides of the plate and defensively at shortstop.
Yeah, I think the defense is probably the big thing at play there, if I had to be honest.
Right. And I think that Julio, they said he's probably going to DH a lot over the next, however many games until he's comfortable out there in the field. I mean, he didn't look comfortable at the plate at all. Like he didn't seem like he was his timing's a little off. That's completely understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But I just worry that he's brought back too soon because if he goes out there and re-injures that ankle and now he's out through basically probably the rest of the season at that point because you'd want it healthy for the playoffs, that's scary to me because we want to see the Robles, Rodriguez, Arozarena outfield sooner rather than later. In my opinion, I would have rather the Mariners have let him stay on the injured list until he was completely ready to come back. Maybe send him on a 2-3 game rehab assignment and then bring him back up maybe towards the end of this month. But I don't know. What's your take on it?
I understand in the same vein, like you're saying, like I get why people could be upset about this decision and think it's too early. The concession that I have is that this is the biggest stage the Seattle Mariners have been on as far as like nationally televised baseball. You were on Sunday Night Baseball. I'm not surprised that he was fighting tooth and nail to come back and play in this final game of this homestand before heading out on a 9-game road trip. I'm not surprised by it. Do I think Julio's going to start at DH over the next 9 games? No, I really don't think so. I think it's probably going to be every other day, if anything, and he won't play in the outfield until they come back home on August 23rd against the Giants would be my best assessment of how I guess things have looked. His timing was pretty all over the place today. Had a couple good swings, but missed, obviously. Does go 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts, the platinum sombrero, if you will. It's just, it wasn't great, and I understand why people might be upset. The nice thing is the Mariners won this game. They were up big, so you can avoid the glaring hole that an 0 for 5 with 5 Ks from your guy that you're so anticipated just returning. Like, you can overlook it a little bit because of how well the offense and the team just performed in general. I think what could have done him well, and hindsight's 2020, he could come out Tuesday and go 3 for 4 with 2 bombs. The game of baseball is a one game at a time situation, I feel like, right? He can flush this game and can come out popping on Tuesday if he's playing, or he can let it continue to affect him. I think your concern is valid in the idea, like, don't let it, like, just don't re-injure it, because that's the worst case scenario. I think what I would have done in an ideal world, say this was a regular Sunday game, 1 o'clock, he's probably not coming back. I feel like he goes on a rehab assignment sometime during this road trip and then is back, like, I think on Friday against the Giants on August 23rd. Like, he maybe goes on a rehab assignment sometime, say this coming Friday, plays a couple games. I don't think 23rd is a Friday, is it?
I
Oh,
don't
I
know.
think it is actually. Regardless, doesn't matter. The Mariners have some off days thrown in there, 9-game road trip. Like there would have been time for Julio to have a rehab assignment in Tacoma and then be ready for that return to home for the Mariners against the Giants. I'm not mad that they brought him back because, of course, it's like, yeah, Julio's going to want to play. And according to all the athletic people in the Mariners organization, he cleared like their precautionary things. Like it was goals that he said he had set out each day as far as like showcasing what he can do, like when running first to thirds and taking batting practice and yada yada yada. They cleared him, they activated him. Like this wasn't just like a vibes thing. Like they feel like he is healthy enough to go
Mhm.
out there and take 4 at bats a game. This situation 5 because your offense goes crazy. But if they feel healthy about it, like they feel comfortable with it, I'm leaning more comfortable. But I understand like the leaning on the side of caution of like, okay, if he re-injures himself, this is just bad news.
Right, because I don't think that the Mariners themselves would have allowed him to come back had
Mm-hmm.
they not been confident in his ability to A, not re-injure it, and B, in his ability to swing the bat right now. Like you're not gonna bring him back just because oh well, we're on Sunday Night Baseball. What do you
Yeah.
freaking do? Personally, this is just me, Joe. Never in my life have I cared about Sunday Night Baseball.
Sure. I think it's one, well, maybe because we haven't seen it since 2004 in Seattle.
Mm-mm.
Someone I think on stream said it was 2016 with the
2016.
Cubs.
Can you name the game?
No.
It was the To the Gap game with I believe it was Leonis Martin off of Aroldis Chapman with like the bases loaded, really pivotal moment. And Martin hit like a ball, and Sims is like, to the gap, to the gap. And then he kind of did the same thing today with the bases loaded on the radio with Leo Rivas up with the bases loaded. He goes, to the gap. And I'm like,
Wait a minute.
nah, hold on. It was
History
off of
repeats
Aroldis
itself.
Chapman in the ninth.
Hmm.
And then I think Cishek came in and blew that game. So,
Oh, very,
yeah.
very, very cool.
Yeah, so but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I that's why I don't think that the Mariners know how important Julio is the rest of the way. They know how important he would be to this team down the stretch run, especially in the playoffs. Like, there's no bigger stage in the playoffs. So they're not going to bring him back for Sunday Night Baseball if that somehow impedes the ability for him to play in the playoffs. And as we move forward after this off day at the start of this road trip here on Monday, the day that this video is coming out, we are going to see Julio in Detroit taking on the Tigers. Do you think he starts 2 of the 3 games? Or do you think maybe they give him, in my opinion, I think they give him Tuesday off to give him back-to-back days. What do you think?
I would lean yes, but it is Scooble on the mound. So if you want your best offense out there, you go. I feel like you could have Julio DH. You give Cal back-to-back days off because it will be, not to get ahead of ourselves here, George Kirby on the mound. I think unless they change the stuff with the off days, but Garver will be catching. DH is available. Julio I think can go DH. Haniger would play right field. I think if you want to give yourself the best chance in that series against the Tigers, you have him play on Tuesday and Thursday. You give him an off day on Wednesday. Like have him go alternating days. I don't necessarily think it's like the utmost importance to have him play against Scooble because he could just go 0 for 4 with 4Ks again.
Right.
But if they view him as ready to go, healthy, why not give him a chance against one of the league's best? And
Mm.
I think the back-to-back days is a very compelling argument given how he looked specifically today. Maybe just a nice little mental reset away from the actual action to just kind of maybe ground himself and get him right, going into the second game. Would you sit him on the Thursday game if you had him play Wednesday? Or would you give him
Mm,
back-to-back games?
I might I mean, I would just say it just depends on how he feels.
Sure.
Like, we all know that Julio's gonna say, I feel fine.
Yeah.
I'm good. But like he has to be honest with himself and with the training staff right now because of how important he is the rest of the way. And I think that he probably knows that. And so if he is like a little sore the next day, I'm sitting him. No chance of even pinch hitting.
I'm sitting him.
I'm sitting him. And but yeah, going into game 2, right now there's nobody announced for the Tigers or the Mariners. I would assume it's gonna be Brian Wu that day for the Mariners. The Tigers have been running a lot of, I think 3 of their 5 starts a week have been bullpen days, so could be anybody.
Yeah.
Um, so that's weird, but I Bleav it's Brian Wu in this game, Joe, versus the Tigers, who just took 2 of 3 from the Mariners, but the Mariners took 2 of 3 from the Mets or I'm sorry, 2 of 3 from the Phillies and swept the Mets. The 2 much better teams than the Tigers. The way I look at it, that Tiger series is more of an anomaly than anything else. Like, okay, it happened. Team didn't play their best baseball, and honestly, they had a good chance to win those games. I mean, obviously, the Parker Meadows robbing that home run definitely set the tone for basically what could have been a series win.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unfortunately, when Parker Meadows robbed that home run, and I mean, I could only imagine what the win probability would have looked like had he not robbed that home run compared to him robbing it. So, definitely a huge swing in that game. I think going into the series versus the Tigers, it's pretty imperative that the Mariners take this series and continue the momentum that they've been on.
Yeah, it's a situation where you kind of framed the series wins on that homestand around like, okay, you played the better teams more strongly than you did the Tigers. You have to now like nut up or shut up against the Tigers in Detroit. The Red Sox did not do the Mariners any favors this weekend against the Astros, so like you have to continue to keep pace there. The Tigers did just like they lost the series to the Giants, their most recent series that they played. They did win the series finale, so they avoided getting swept in San Francisco. The probable listed on Fangraphs, Colton, for the second game, you mentioned it's Brian Wu, which is correct. It's Brian Salmons, so the guy that came in for long relief, I Bleav, and just shoved for innings, which is just doesn't bode any confidence. Like there's it's so I hate bullpen games. I hate when we're against them because there's no sense of like consistency, which is terrible for how inconsistent the Mariners offense has been. They looked great against the Mets, I think all 3 games pretty much. Against Detroit, that was not the case. So like how do you mitigate that? You just have to go in there with the right mindset, ready to roll. We know the tail of the tape on the Tigers. You're not facing any really phenomenal pitching aside from Tariq Skubal in that first game. I mean, as far as team ERA goes, I say it every single week. The Mariners are first. They're sitting at a 3.42 ERA. They have got a .3 run average high, like better than the next best team in the Phillies at 3.73. Sure, allowing 1 run over 27 innings of baseball will definitely help you in that regard. The Tigers, they're 14th in all of baseball with a 3.98. Like you are better than them in that regard. Their offense, it's not that much better than Seattle's. And I'll tell you this, it's worse. There's a team that has a worse offense than Seattle. It's amazing. And is that maybe on the heels of a 12-run Sunday? Potentially. Mariners sit at a 96 WRC plus in their 21st in all of baseball. The Tigers are at an 89, 26th in all of baseball. Okay? Go out there, and if it's a bullpen day, just get the long reliever out of there early. Go tack on some runs, and then continue to just exasperate the Tigers bullpen. Because if you're getting the long man out, that's just going to continue to hinder them in the third game, the final game on Thursday. Again, we have no idea probables because the Tigers won are a weird team. I looked at their previous turn through the rotation. Obviously, it was Hannafy that started against the Mariners on that Thursday. Then it was Bo Brisky or Brisk. I don't know how if it's
Brisky.
Brisky. Okay, the E at the end, it can be a little confusing. And then they went with Alex Faedo on Saturday. So we won't see Faedo because that doesn't line up as far as it could with rest on the final day.
Bullpen guy, it might be.
Dude, yeah, that's the hard part about like I guess like previewing this series is just we have no idea where they're gonna go. But the final game, turn through the rotation for the Mariners. If they're holding true, it'll be Bryce Miller on the road, Colton.
Don't tell me his numbers.
I wasn't going to.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's Bryce Miller on the road, sure, but it's the Tigers. Like, in my opinion, the Mariners pitching staff wasn't great against the Tigers. Like, just as a whole. Like, the rotation,
I mean, yeah, Kirby only went 5. You need him,
right.
When he's going toe-to-toe with Skubal, you need him to go 6 or 7. And he
that's
went 5.
that's why I think like if the Mariners can find a way to win game 1, I will feel really good about this series.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1 is the one that like I mean Skubal, he's probably going to win the Cy Young. He's one of the best pitchers on the planet, if not the best pitcher on the planet right now behind like Paul Skeens. Like when I think of the best pitchers, I mean Logan Gilbert's number 1 and then Paul Skeens and then Tarek Skubal. I think that if the Mariners can win game 1, as long as they can scratch across another win in one of those 2 bullpen days, I don't care. I feel great about that. And then after that, they head to what? Pittsburgh after that, right?
Yeah.
The hope is that the Tampa Bay Rays can come through and take down the Houston Astros because I am so tired of this just, oh, I'm going to win a game. I'm going to win a game. I'm going to lose today. Well, yeah, I can lose better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Will you guys just figure it out? But it's going to make it really interesting at the end of the year if this continues to happen when the Mariners do play the Astros again, because that could literally be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
It's like that they could bury themselves that way. But, I mean, both the Mariners and the Astros are playing not great baseball teams over the next couple of days. And I think the Mariners need to take advantage after a sweep of a team that had been the hottest in baseball over the past, like, calendar month or something like that, of the Mets. They need to go out there and build on that. I mean, I don't want to say that the off day is coming at a bad time. But the off day might be coming at a bad time, Joe.
Yeah, the vibes are rolling. Obviously, the offense is cooking. Giving them an off day, it's good for travel. I'll be satisfied because they get an off day to travel. I mean, they're already. I mean, do you think they've left? Have they left yet?
Yes, I'd say so.
So like they're gonna be there fully rested going into that Tuesday game. Is it too much time away from scoring 12 runs? Like, will the bats cool down? I hope not. There's not anything that should tell me like, yes, they will slow down after the performances they put up 3 games in a row against the Mets. If you want to go back and say the final game against Detroit, the ninth inning heroics, like the offense started there in the last couple of days. You don't look at innings 1 through 8 in that final game against Detroit. You look at the ninth. You play 9 innings, okay? And then you look at the next 27 against the Mets, and the offense looks fine. There's no reason for you to believe that that can't continue. You just have to put it on the field. You can't just continue to talk about theoretics like we do here. You have to actually physically put it on the field. Cal mentioned, the energy is a little low, like we're facing Detroit. You can't have that. That's not something you can have. And hope maybe, Colton, that off day is coming at the right time to allow them to rejuvenate after a pretty energized Sunday. You know what I mean? Like they're social batteries, all right? They're going to be just completely tanked. George Kirby dugout interview, Cal Raleigh post-game interview, obviously Robles being mic'd up. They're tired. The off day will help them recuperate. That's my copium.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, that sounds good, man. No, I think that Randy and Victor Robles, the two of them are like a match made in heaven right now. Like, they are just so fun on the field together. They themselves have brought the energy. And now with Julio back for this series as well, I think that the energy is going to be... I think that they will have the energy in that ball game or in that series to hopefully mitigate any of the lackluster, we're playing a team that's not very good. Don't play down to them. Who cares? Step on their throats. Because in the end, you are in a race with the Houston Astros right now. You lost 2 of 3 to the Tigers last time. You probably shouldn't have. And because of that, you're still tied with the Houston Astros. If neither team pulls away, then it's going to make for a very gut-wrenching end of the season for one of those two teams. And this is a series where the Mariners should be able to start pulling away because they're playing a bad baseball team. Worst case scenario, they should sweep. Or no, I'm sorry, not sweep. Oh my God, they should win the series.
Whoa.
Best case scenario, obviously, they sweep.
Yeah, I mean, the Tigers are 7 games under. They just brought back Akil Baddoo from the minors because they put Wenceel Perez, guy that hit the home run off of George Kirby in that, I think it was the first at-bat of the game. He's on the injured list, so maybe that bodes well for the Mariners. But Akil Baddoo, he's gone nuclear for like a handful of games at a time. Hopefully we don't run into that version of him. This team is not good, but they were good enough to beat the Mariners 2 out of 3 last time. You just have to go out there and show that you're the better team.
Were they good enough, Joe, or were the Mariners just bad?
Sure. Did the Mariners lose that series or the Tigers win that series? If you want to play, that what side of the coin it was, I feel like the Mariners lost that series. I will agree with you there. They emphatically won the series against the Phillies. They emphatically won the series against the Mets. Did the Tigers emphatically win against the Mariners? No. The Mariners lost that series against the Tigers. You need to go out there and show that your side of the coin is the one that lands heads up this time. You will win that series against the Tigers. You have to continue to keep the push. Like keep moving forward. I mean, the Red Sox scuffling right now. You pass them in the wild card standings. The central teams, they're going to continue to beat up on each other the rest of the way. I mean, it's not super far away. If the Mariners continue winning at this pace, like even if the division doesn't end up shaking out the way we need it to, them playing as well as they have, the wild card isn't like crazy far away. But you want to play for the division, of course.
Right. Yeah, you're playing for the division, but if you continue to play well, there's a decent chance that you can find yourself at worst case scenario in wild card 3 at the end of the year. As one George Kenneth Griffey Jr. said, keep fighting. And I'm gonna let you guys chew on that until the next episode. Very strong, very emotional, what I just did there.
Why'd you ruin it?
Thank you guys so much for watching episode 112 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by Bet Online, the Bennett episode of the podcast, and go Mariners.